President Obama now making news in the quest to defeat the man who replaced him. Obama campaigning and fundraising for Joe Biden and attacking Trump over coronavirus and criminal justice.
That suggests that a deadly disease is fake news, that sees the Justice Department as simply an extension and an arm of the personal concerns of the president.
Behind the scenes, Obama's former aides also now joining the Biden campaign. And that's amidst reports that some top Dems want Obama to play an even larger role in getting his former VP elected, which brings us to a special segment right now, the Obama factor and the complex relationship between these two teammates, which did develop on the fly. Obama and Biden had virtually no personal relationship until 2008. They had success on the campaign trail together, but in office, Obama broke with Biden's freewheeling approach. And that ranges from the symbolic, like Biden mocking the Chief Justice for a memory lapse at the inauguration. Obama was not amused, and his body language was telling in that moment. We'll show you that, as well as some differences on substance.
My memory is not as good as Justice Roberts, Chief Justice Roberts does. Take a taste.
No. Go ahead.
Just take a taste.
Royale.
Then last weekend, Vice President Biden surprised everyone by seeming to endorse gay marriage. And today, the president himself told Robin how and why his own thinking has changed.
And the vice president may have had just a hand in jumping the gun just a little bit.
As everyone says, Biden will be Biden.
One senior Democratic source tells CNN that President Obama gave Biden his, quote, blessing to run at their weekly lunch yesterday. But a spokesperson for Biden said people are speculating about something they know nothing about.
For the final time as president, I am pleased to award our nation's highest civilian honor, the Presidential Medal of Freedom.
When you look back at it, you can see the strain as well as the mutual respect between these two men. These next 4 months will determine if Biden can extend Obama's legacy or if he'll become potentially another famous Democrat stomped by Donald Trump. When Clinton lost to Trump, Obama was slumped in his chair in the Oval Office saying, "I'm so done with this," an exasperation that morphed into a recurring question. Was there anything he could have done to blunt the Trump backlash? That question shows Obama personally invested in stopping Trump, even if his former Veep were not on the ballot this year. And the New York Times has these new fascinating details about Obama's life these days, noting he watches Trump in horror like many other Americans, sending texts and story links to friends between midnight and 2 a.m., mixing politics with exercise. The report notes Obama gets on his Peloton bike by 8 a.m., where he sends off a new round of texts about the latest Trump outrage. And that outrage channels how many Democratic voters feel. But Obama's in a position to do something about it. He is the only Democrat to win a popular vote majority and 2 consecutive terms in over 60 years. I'm joined now by pollster and political strategist Cornell Belcher, who worked on both Obama presidential campaigns. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
What do you see both in Obama getting in, many wanting more, and a relationship that does have its nuances between these two?
Well, you know, it's funny because when you were talking about that New York Times article, I laughed out loud, Ari, when I read him in the article talking about he finds himself back in the political battlefields that he longed to leave, and it's true to a certain extent for such a gifted campaigner, perhaps is only second, maybe, equal to Bill Clinton, such a gifted campaigner. He did not long for the campaign trail, unlike Bill Clinton, who seemed to relish it. Obama did not. But let's be clear about something. When you look at the polling numbers inside the battleground states and even across the battleground congressional districts, there is not a more popular not Democrat, but more popular political figure anywhere in the country than right now than Barack Obama, and his stature has grown since he's left office. As people compare him, quite frankly, to the guy we have in office right now, only his wife is, quite frankly, more popular. So I think it's critical for Biden to embrace Barack Obama. And let's be clear about something: Barack Obama speaks to this moment of change and racial healing and the need to bring all Americans together like no other politician. That was part of his message in 2008. And again, I think we're at an inflection moment where that message is going to have a lot of strong resonance.
You mentioned that popularity. You obviously are pro-Obama, if you will. That's why you're here. But objectively, we can note that popularity is not automatic. George W. Bush served 2 terms and left very unpopular and remained relatively unpopular for quite a long time. This halo and support around both, as you mentioned, Barack Obama and Michelle and what they represent, particularly in contrast to Trumpism today, is a real measurable thing. We saw that in rallies that right now couldn't happen under CDC guidelines. Let's take a look at how Obama was campaigning on the stump previously.
Give it up for the woman who's going to be joining her in the United States Senate, Jackie Rosen. I miss you too. I do. Let's make sure that you have a Congress that represents your values. Let's get out there, Nevada. I'm putting my money on you.
Nobody denies his power as an orator. How is that going to be channeled, and should it, given your role as a strategist, in a time where there won't be a lot of those big rallies from what we can tell?
Well, he still brings an energy and an enthusiasm, and he can speak so eloquently to the issues of the day in a way that no other candidate can. Look, some people either got it or you don't got it, right? I mean, it's what the coach said. You can't teach speed. You better draft it. Barack Obama's got it, right? But let me
press you on it, Cornell, because he's got it. But can you just do that on Zoom? Do you think that before November they should get him out in some form of outdoor socially distanced rally? Do you think that people need to see that, or that's okay to never happen by November?
Well, look, I am quite frankly sick and tired of Zoom, and I'm quite frankly sick and tired of talking to you over Skype. All right, but we have to follow the guidelines, and I'll take Barack Obama over Skype or Zoom over almost anybody else. But to a serious note, when you look, Ari, at those young people who are taking to the streets right now, both the African Americans, whites, as well as Asians and Latino Americans, that youth energy, that looks an awful lot like the youth core of the Obama coalition. So the reason why he was able to grow his margins and win back-to-back majorities. And we saw them pull back in 2016. And their pulling back was a margin of was a difference in Hillary Clinton losing in most of these battleground states. I think he can speak to them in a way that no one else. They were more Obama voters, Ari, than they were Democratic voters.
Right.
So he has been with them.
Which goes to something that I obviously don't want to be misheard, because Obama and Trump have very little overlap. But in terms of relative strength versus the party, they both have represented appeals that are far wider than the party they're associated with. Before I let you go, I got one more highlight reel, but a little bit of a tougher question coming out of it, which I'll explain. Take a look here at some of Obama's greatest hits ever.
The hope of a skinny kid with a funny name who believes that America has a place for him too. Our union can be perfected. And what we've already achieved gives us hope for what we can and must achieve tomorrow. We, in fact, all share the same proud title, the most important office in a democracy, citizen.
Here's the tougher question. You and many people would look at that as amazing. What do you say to critics of Joe Biden, including potential Obama coalition Democratic voters, who have said, you know what? It's much harder to put together a reel like that for Joe Biden, who's actually had a longer career in politics, that there isn't the same enthusiasm, some say, that when you look at other measures like online searches, people aren't searching to hear what Joe Biden's saying right now. Fair or not, What do you say to that?
Shut the hell up and grow up, right? We've got a guy who is an existential threat to everything you believe in, right? Shut up, get in line, let's get rid of this guy, and then we can argue on the other side of this.
Cornell, if this is how real you keep it on live TV, what are your off-the-record Zooms like?
Yeah, you should join us MSNBC late night for that, Ari. Coming soon.
Cornell Belcher, who's been in the room with Barack Obama and Joe Biden, who served at the upper echelon, but who's not afraid to just speak plainly, which we welcome right here on The Beat. Good to see you, sir.
Thank you, Ari.